That's Incredible will not be seen tonight due to the following ABC special movie presentation.
And now, back to our discussion of Superman the movie.
Yeah. Well, and you know that. So, I mean, I'm more saying this for the people that are going to be listening, and because I'm sure you probably already know this, but it's like, so the originally, and as they were shooting Superman 1 and 2 together, that was part of the deal that got Richard Donner to sign on. Is like, because they said it's $1 million to direct this movie.
Yeah,
but you got to do both movies back to back, so you're going to be stuck over here in England for a while, and. But he was like $1 million. Yeah, well, that's fine. You know, and because I think at that point it was maybe like the most a director had ever gotten for a movie, even though technically it was 2 movies.
Yeah.
Oops, sorry, I punched the desk by accident. I was so mad about Dick Donner having to direct 2 movies for $1 million. But then the thing is like as they're working on it and like as they're getting behind on the schedule, and they still have not figured everything out with the script, and they're still going like, oh, this ending seems a little weak.
Yeah.
And then they go, well, and they're also going like, if this, we're trying to shoot this second movie, and as the schedule's getting pushed back because it's taken them so long to figure out how to do all this flying. And man, if you watch those those behind the scenes things on all that stuff, where it talks about what a nightmare it was trying to figure out, because they had promised, you'll believe a man can fly. They'd already promised that that's the thing they had to pull off, was making him fly, or else the whole thing doesn't work. And they were like, but we have no idea. And of course, like when Richard Donner got there, and it was like all of the pre-production stuff that Guy Hamilton and the other people had done on trying, like all is just like laughable and never would have worked. Or, you could have done it, but it would not have gone over. It wouldn't be as good.
Yeah. I like the dummy that they just launched into
just
the air.
Throw. And that version, there is still like one shot I saw in this extended version, at least, where they used the flying dummy. It's like a real quick shot towards the end, but it's like, hey, I recognize that guy. But they were like, well, what's the best ending we could do? And it's the ending of what they had planned for the second movie.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, so because they were like, there's not going to be a second one if this first one comes out and flops. And they're like, so the biggest thing we've got is this ending for part 2. Let's put that at the end of part 1, and then we'll figure out what's going to happen at the end of part 2 later.
And it's so interesting because I've like looked at because the Donner cut just kind of crams it all together. But like I've looked at the script for the end of part 2, and like him flying back in time is just so not seated in that film. Like Lois dying is the thing that causes him to fly back in this.
And it's also the thing where it's like, this is it's planted by that his dad died. And that was like the 2 big things for him. And it's like, this time though, he's like, because he says that thing about all his power, all the things I can do, all his powers, and I couldn't even save him. Now he is like a man.
Yeah.
He is self-actualized, and he knows that he does have it within him to do this.
And he's not going to listen to Jor-El tell him he can't.
I'm not listening to my space daddy. I'm listening to my I'm not it is interesting though, because it's like you do want to feel like it's a little bit of the thing. It's like, that Jonathan Kent is his real father.
Yeah.
That I would say that's maybe like one of the only things that I'm like not a huge fan of in this, is that it's like how quickly he's just like, oh, like there's none of that there's nothing after that. It's like when he's talking about like, I mean, I guess he mentions that he wants half the check to go to be sent to this address, which is his mom. But like that he's calling, that when he meets Jor-El, and then in that extended scene too, when he's going like, oh, father, and thank you, father, and blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, it's a little bit of like, I know that the reasoning behind it is because it's Marlon Brando, and they've really got to, that's why it's so important. And you keep using him. But it's like, I do feel like it is a little bit of that thing. He's like, you know what? I appreciate this stuff. I appreciate what you've done. Thank you for sending me here. But it's like, I've got to decide on what I think is right.
Yeah.
Like I've got to do what's right for me, like the human part of me, or
Yeah. Can I Can I tell you the funniest part about the extended cut, especially having read the scripts and like seeing what happened? So I'm watching it, and there's there's like lines when Lois Lane is interviewing the like Native American
Yes.
who's talking about the
Yes.
land sale, and he talks about,
Uh-huh.
he's like, this is worthless land ever since they built that dam that diverted all the water off of my people's land.
To
And
the
then
other, yeah.
and then during the climax of the movie, you know, the dam bursts, Superman saves the day, he builds his own like rock thing in the water,
Uh-huh.
diverts back into, you know, and you see all of
Not
these,
in a dangerous way, not in a flood way, but in a way that makes everyone happy.
yeah, and so you see all of these people being like, yay, you saved the day.
Water. We love playing in water.
Because the movie wasn't supposed to end with him going back in time,
Uh-huh.
like that was a happy ending. But then in the extended cut, they still have the back in time ending. So then he flies, and I'm just like watching this. I'm like, hey, Superman, you really screwed these guys over right now.
Well, I guess you're supposed to just take it as like, well, they already sold the land, and they got like, that was one of the things that they did make a point to mention, is that it's for crazy high prices. So it's like they're getting rich off of this.
I guess, but it's, I mean, is Lex gonna pay? He's in jail now.
Well, he's already paid.
Okay, I guess that's fair.
They already got the money. That's what I choose to believe. But that was the first thing I said, was after he does that, then I was like, oh, so I guess the Native Americans didn't get their water back. Well, that's now, so this is possibly, like, you know, with this, it's like, this is possibly the biggest question that I have in this movie, and I've had, you know, debates about this for, you know, I feel like all my life. And this at the end of the movie, and I know
this question like, that's already coming. I'm so excited.
Yeah. So it's like at the end of the movie, and I've heard people, and I honestly, at this point, I don't know what I think. I'm like, I have heard enough arguments, you know, sort of like good arguments in different ways, where I'm going, well, okay, yeah,
Chris, I'm going to convince you tonight. I
already
know.
Oh boy. So at the scene where Lois has died, Superman, in his grief and rage, shoots up into the air, says, screw you, space dad. I do what I want. I will I will change the course of human history. And then he proceeds to start flying with such speed around the Earth that what we are presented with is him streaking around the planet Earth, and it starts to spin backwards. And then he stops. We see the dam going back together, the water going backwards. We see things going in reverse. We see then him stop and do a couple more laps around the opposite way, and the Earth starts spinning the other direction. Then he goes, and somehow he spun it back to where the things didn't explode, but or it's, we saw things reverse. That's, I won't say he spun it back to where things went back. We saw things reverse.
Yep.
Then he goes down and finds Lois, whose car is still out of gas, just like it was, but now for some reason the fissure in the Earth that was happening that swallowed her up is just not coming for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Now, as a kid, I thought Superman is flying so fast that he is spinning the world backwards, and that is making time go backwards. Which then, as I got a little bit older, still like a teenager, I was like, well, that wouldn't make it work. Everyone would just fly off the Earth or something. That would like mess up if you were able to rotate around the Earth so fast. And then a friend of mine who was older than me, who was a teacher and like one of the smartest people in my life, I felt like I'd ever known. He explained it to me as, well, part of Einstein's theory of such and such, you know, is that time and space are linked. And what Superman is doing is not actually spinning the Earth backwards in time. He's spinning it backwards in space to the point where it's back to where it was in that time. So it's the idea is not that he's making time go backwards. It's that space and time are connected. So every point in time is also a particular point in space. And therefore, when he moves the Earth on its axis, he spins it backwards the other way. That's putting it back in that just few minutes earlier in space and time.
I would like to subscribe to this man's newsletter. I love this. This is a great read of this movie.
Yeah. Which is funny that you would say that, because at the very dawn of like email and stuff, I had this idea that I wanted to make a newsletter full of just pop culture news that I was reading on the internet, and then wanted to send that to everyone. This is basically like I wanted social media before there was social media.
Yeah.
But I got this guy would write a column for it every time about some kind of whatever was on it, whatever he wanted to write about. So it's funny that you would say you wanted to subscribe to his newsletter, because there was a period in time that if you could get back to that period in space, you could subscribe to the newsletter that he wrote for that I put out. But there's also the school of thought that is the Earth turning backwards and seeing the things go back is showing us how Superman is perceiving things.
Like he broke the time barrier, and
what it is, it's got nothing to do with that things are going backwards. It's that he's going so fast that he is going back in time, and he's perceiving that stuff happening and then flying down to change things. But it doesn't account for, which makes sense when you know the problems with the script.
Yeah.
That it's like well, you can even him starting it go back the other way is that he was going back and he's making sure that he's gotten everything taken care of. And he's like, oh, okay, I got it. I need to go a little bit forward now.
Yeah.
I need to go back around a couple times to go a little bit forward in time.
It's just funny that for him, like going forward in time means going to the right, and going backward in time. Like, I don't know how it works with Superman.
Well, this could also tie into that time and space thing. I don't know. I'm not a scientist or a superhero, but now, so what do you? And at this point, I'm like, you know what? All of these sound equally plausible and ridiculous.
I think
no matter which way you go with it, there's a lot of questions.
I came into this saying, I'm going to convince you. You have convinced me of this space and time are linked proposition.
Well, Sean, if you're listening to this, and I know you're not, I hope that you appreciate that we have put your theory out to the masses.
Yeah, because honestly, like behind the scenes, I think it was just they didn't think through the implications of the idea of him flying forwards and making the Earth start spinning. I think they thought he's flying so fast, he's going back in time. We see the Earth go back in time.
Yeah.
I don't think they thought he rotates the Earth backwards and therefore goes back in time. But I don't know. They then do show him going forwards again.
To get it, it's like starting it back in the right direction.
So, yeah.
What were you going to convince me?
Now I don't even know.
Amazing. Well, folks, like if you're listening to this and you've got a theory, and Dan, I think you probably do, and I already have a question from Dan, but I'm like for later in the show. But I'm if anyone's got theories on what's happening there, they want to convince us, get in touch, let us know. I want to get some closure on this somehow.
We did just hit the spinning the Earth back in time. Do you think we're ready for our listener question? Is there more we need to hit on?
Let's see what else I got in my notes. This is the most notes I've ever taken for a podcast, because you know what? Okay. We have talked about, this is a question I meant to ask at the beginning. I wanted to say, why is everyone on Krypton so old? Think about it.
Yeah.
There's one baby, and Superman's mom looks younger, but everyone else is a bunch of old British actors and Marlon Brando.
So we only really see the Science Council.
Well, in this extended version,
and some soldiers.
See a lot more people dying.
That is true.
Including the Disco Cobra Commander.
There is so much Krypton exploding in this.
There really is. And that was another thing too, where I was like, Jor-El, this is the first time I noticed this also, or thought about it at least, is in this extended cut, there's so much more scenes of Jor-El leading Lara away, like they're trying to avoid as the planet's blowing up and and things are crashing. Mm-hmm. And he seems to be walking and moving and leading her around with like such a focus and purpose, like he knows exactly where he's trying to go and whatever. And I'm like, You were the one who said the planet was about to blow up. Where are you going, man?
That's probably why they cut it.
Well, there's still a little bit of that, I think, in the original. There's some of that before it's way cut down, all the death and destruction. But you really do get more of a sense of this is a civilization. It's not just like a bunch of these old heads standing around, arguing about stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm like going. Well, and I thought about that. It was like, well, maybe this is basically just like a bunch of old people in government. This is like Congress or something. So that's why it's. But it's like you really don't see anything but old people.
Yeah.
So that's just a question I have. I don't expect you to have the answers for these questions necessarily, but if you do, I'll be excited. One thing I wanted to say about this movie is, especially as a movie that I have seen a million times and watched off of VHSs that I had, taped off TV, and then the one that I was able to buy that was like the official release, and then DVDs and Blu-rays and 4K, and all this stuff. I will say about watching this one last night, last night and today. This is also because that this 3-hour cut was made so that they could show it over 2 nights.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if we already covered that, but that was the idea, is that we take a 2-hour movie, turn it into a 3-hour movie, which then means we can show it over 4 hours on 2 nights, get 2 nights out of it it's. So it kind of felt like that. By no intention, I stopped it at like exactly 1 hour and 30 minutes last night. Was like, I'm ready for bed. I'll watch the rest of this in the morning. And when I turned it back on, I just remembered what part I had stopped at. And then when I went back to it today, I was like, wow, that was exactly in half. What are the odds? But so seeing it like that did make it feel like it was not as much of a 3-hour thing.
Yeah.
But I did realize this was like really for the first time where I was going, this Blu-ray this quality is incredible.
Yeah.
For this thing that was just supposed to be like a TV thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it made me realize it's like being in such high quality, such sharpness of picture does lose a little bit of the magic of this movie. I think this movie, especially the stuff on like Krypton with all the miniatures and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that it works better if it is a little hazy.
And
it's not so quite, because it's like when it's just a little, which made me realize for me, I was like, oh, this is a glasses off movie. Because when I was watching it with my glasses on, I was like, boy, this looks great. The picture quality is so good, but I can definitely tell that's just a model. And when I take my glasses off, it looks like it's a mile wide.
We have very different needs of glasses.
What's your situation?
A glasses off movie is one in which I do not care to see any faces, scenes, anything other than color palette.
I basically just wear my glasses for driving. It's or my glasses are for distance. And the TV is great big.
Yeah.
I'm only, 3 or 4 feet away from it, sitting on the couch. And so it's like with my glasses off, with like, I didn't know if you were about to have to.
I was testing.
Do a
mine
Superman.
Are also for distance. So my distance though is 8 inches.
Mine is like, I can't read at a distance. I can see that there's letters. I can make out that it's, letters or whatever, but it's like, I would have a hard time reading it clearly. Anyway, but so it's just enough where the distance from the couch to the TV and the size of the TV and everything, it was just enough where it's like, if I took my glasses off, everything still looked very detailed. I could still see that, it still seemed like clear, but it just didn't seem so sharp that I could see people's fingerprints on stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I got to see this on 35 millimeter at,
boy,
I think the Smithsonian in DC.
Wow.
I cried like 4 times. And leaving that, I'm like, every excuse about superhero costumes needing texture to read on the big screen, I'm like, that's bullshit. He looks like Superman.
He looks so great in this. But I also think that the real problem is that it takes a certain person
wear it.
wear it and pull it off, and you not, and not like kind of snicker at, like, or to have him like, and that's the thing, they said it's like the first time they saw Christopher Reeve in the suit, and he was still like really skinny then.
Yeah.
He's tall, but he was still really skinny, and he was like, he like swore to them. He was like, "Look, I'm an athlete. I played, lacrosse or whatever. I did all this stuff." He's like, "Normally I'm bigger than this." He's like, "But I've been doing this play where I was supposed to be He's like, "This was for this whatever play he was doing." He's like, "I can put the weight on. I promise." He's like, "Let me just try to do this." And they're like, "Yeah, go ahead." They put the black shoe polish on his hair to black it out like Superman. And they put the first prototype suit on him. And they said, but there's just, I know, I'm sure you already know all this, but for the people that haven't watched all these special features, the people that are not like us, he just says, "Good evening, Miss Lane." And that's first in the screen test with him and Margot Kidder. And like, or maybe that one wasn't with Margot Kidder, but it was the first one they did but it's like he's standing on that thing in the suit, and then he just sort of hops down.
Mm-hmm.
And they said the way that he just did it, like looking, and it was just it seemed like so natural.
Mm-hmm.
They said like they're rolling on the thing, and Tom Mankiewicz says that like him and Lynn Stallmaster, who is the casting director, he said he kept putting Christopher Reeve's picture like at the top of the pile because they were trying to get all these famous people. They offered it to Robert Redford and Clint Eastwood and Charles Bronson. Like, just imagining what an insane movie that would have been. Like all of this stuff. And then, but they said, just as everyone back behind the camera, the way he just hopped off of that, and it just looked so natural. And it wasn't like putting on, like, he's not puffed up. He's not like, he just looked so like comfortable being Superman. They were all looking and they're like, I think this is the guy. And, they just start getting excited. Why am I even talking about this?
Just because it rules.
It does. It rules.
I was talking about the how well the costume reads on.
Oh, yes.
On film.
Okay, so I do think it takes God bless you for remembering where that anchor had dropped. It is the thing of like, you've got to be able to pull it off, and it takes like there was a lot of people that that are bigger people, more famous people that like you see him in that suit and it just looks silly, but then he does it and you're like, okay. Get a load of this guy.
It's the greatest performance there's ever been.
I mean, in a movie full of amazing performances. And even for as much like, as much BS as Brando put the production through, and like how difficult he was and all of this stuff, it's like he is still so good in it. And there was like a point, and this is the first time I'd ever felt this watching it. There's a point watching it last night where he's saying some part, and you look at him and I'm just like, he really does look like he could be Superman's dad.
Yeah.
There's just like a shot of him. It's something from the extended where it was like just a longer take on his face as he's like kind of like thinking and then talking. And I was just like, get a load of this guy. Just look at him. Like, yeah, he does. He's great. There's a reason why he's Marlon Brando. I think, hold on. I feel like I had like one other question that I wanted to, we talked about the time travel. Talked about people being old. Oh, all right. This is my final thing on. I was like, I want to try to come up with something. Think about like not just force it, but if I can find something in this movie where I'm like, this is what I would change to make this just. This would have been the thing where I've been like, can we just? This seems like, and we do get something that you could maybe take as this in this extended cut, but it's definitely not in the theatrical version of the movie. The one thing I think this movie is missing is that there's never a point where Jimmy Olsen takes a picture of Superman that is like, that is then like the picture of Superman, which then gets him. It's sort of like the interview with Lois is sort of what then like, I look at it as sort of like, that's the thing that then like we're meeting all of them. This is all of their origin story. This is the thing that puts Lois at that next level.
Yeah.
Which, you know, with Perry saying that thing of like, whoever gets this interview is gonna be the most important interview since God talked to Moses. Yeah, and the way he says, like, just the rhythm of how he says all of those things, the way that every one of Jackie Cooper is so great in this movie. Glenn Ford is so great in this movie. We didn't even talk about that, and he is absolutely incredible in this movie. Like, and that's a performance you cannot appreciate as a 7-year-old, but like as an adult now, and it's like, oh my God, it's so good, and it's like just so real. He just gives it such a, and like all of these people are giving such great performances.
Yeah.
But like there's never a part though. Like that's the thing that makes Lex Luthor. This is what moves him from a guy that the cops are after to a super villain. This is the thing that moves the day. I mean, the Daily Planet's already like established thing, but this is the movie that establishes Superman and the Daily Planet go together like all of those things that Perry says. Death and taxes, Franks and beans.
I'm trying to remember. One of the scripts I was reading had a really great Jimmy picture line. God, I wish I could remember what it was. It was like Superman's like, "Hey, hope you're ready to get the shot of your life," and then he like flies as like he takes a picture.
That's what you need.
Yeah.
And so it's like the picture of the first thing I thought of, and this is part of what made me think of this as the thing that I would change, is when you see that first I Spent the Night with Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got that picture of Superman standing there with his arms crossed, just sort of looking like it almost looks like a mugshot or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, who took that picture? Where did y'all get that picture? And it's like, I know that they had some of the, you know, in the day before where Perry's putting all the papers down and going, the Times, this, the Gazette, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They said Blue Bomb buzzes city, whatever. Cape Wonder stuns city. All of those. I feel like those you need to have, you know, it's, you can sort of see that there's a guy flying, but it's not like the picture of Superman.
Yeah.
I felt like if that's the one thing I would change is I would give this movie a moment. And you do get sort of a thing in the extended edition where Superman saves Jimmy from the dam that's crumbling. And he, in the theatrical cut, he just saves him and then puts him down and goes about his business of saving everyone else. You think he'd go straight to Lois, but I mean, whatever. Think he'd be like really honed in on her first, maybe, but just to go, okay, so she's fine. Now I'll deal with everyone. But yeah, that's a movie.
Matt, I found the line if you want it.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
So Superman rescues Jimmy, places him down, looks at the dam that's about to explode, and says to Jimmy with a smile, "Want a picture on page 1 of every newspaper in the world? Jimmy, you know it. Ready? Now." And then the dam bursts and Superman goes to stop it.
Man, well, that would have been great. And so in the extended
cool.
edition, if you haven't seen it, what he gets is Superman saves Jimmy, and then they take a second in the air to see that the dam is just completely, collapsing. The water is shooting, and Superman, like Jimmy's going, oh, and he like sort of starts to hold his camera up as if to say, like, is it okay if I take a picture of this Superman?
Yeah.
And Superman goes, go ahead. Like Jimmy doesn't say that, but Superman, his look says that. Also, this was the first time I had realized truly, and it's because of just those little bit of extra scenes you get, those like little bit longer versions of scenes. I go like, Jimmy really does seem like a kid in this.
Yeah.
Like, and it's funny because it's like, he'd always seemed like just another one of the grownups to me, because the first time I saw this movie, I was a little kid.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going, oh, he is he's a baby here. He seems like he's like 19 or something.
Yeah.
And it's so, and then like Superman calling him son and stuff like that made a little bit more sense to me this time.
Yeah.
But it is, he holds him there to get this shot that he otherwise no one would be able to get without Superman holding you in the air to take that.
Yeah.
So you kind of get that, but that's not even in the theatrical cut. But so if Jimmy could have just establishes like Jimmy and I know the point is just really to establish it's about Lois and Superman, but you know,
you want
like
to be pals.
Yeah, you want him to be Superman's, and in my mind, Superman is friends with Jimmy before there is ever any romance with Lois.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, not like, I mean, he meets Lois first, of course, but it's like, I know it's a movie. They got to hurry up and get through it. And this movie, basically, once he gets to Metropolis, the movie's only like 3 days long.
Yeah.
Everything happens in a course of like, this is like one long
Superman's
weekend.
big night and his big day.
Yeah, Superman's big weekend. So what I'm saying is, Jimmy never gets to take the picture of Superman.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I would add. If I could, make one change to this movie, that would be, it would be nice if there was just a point where he gets to, or even that part where, he where he keeps them from being able to kiss. And in the extended cut, then it does the thing where Superman flies off, and then Jimmy is like, starts trying to take some like fun pictures of Lois.
Yeah.
It's like, it seems like the kind of thing where like that could have been the perfect moment to, before Superman leaves, to just let him go. Like he gets a good picture of him flying away or something, or gets just something. Give this poor guy something.
Yeah. I like Jimmy in this movie, but
Yeah.
he's not an essential Jimmy to me.
As in, he's not essential to the plot of the movie itself?
No, like, if I'm, like, listing my Jimmy Olsens...
This guy wouldn't make the cut?
I mean, he's on the table, but, like...
He wouldn't be in your top 3?
I don't think so.
Wow. Okay, we're going to have to talk
Now,
about that.
we'll have to admit,
in a later episode.
I mean, you know me. There are 2 Jimmy Olsens on Lois and Clark. So
do they automatically take up 2 of the top 3 spots?
We're already 2/3 of the way filled.
Okay. Well, we got to save that for a Lois day, but it's like, I do want to talk about that. Well now, but this also just then gives me, like, makes me pause to go, well, oh man, let me think about it. Who are my Jimmy? How would I rank it? Where would I put it? I'm going to have to, I've got a lot of stuff to go back through. I mean, but of course, this whole time is like, we're going to be going through different things. We're going to come across a number of them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
For Jimmy.
Have you ever listened to the James Bonding podcast?
Oh, you don't know how much of a delight this is to me, this question. I've spent more time with that podcast than members of my family.
I just love their ranking system. I think they've solved the ranking podcast problem.
Where you wait, well, how do they do it? It's
so
like
they do it whenever a name shows up on both of their lists.
Oh yeah, where you don't talk about it until you've both mentioned them. Yeah.
So just a thought.
That's I think you're right. That is the best way to talk about anytime you're trying to do a list. Because I had already had had the idea that I wanted to maybe talk about, because this movie, made me think about it so much, was like, I was basically doing like, not just a Lex Luthor ranking, but sort of trying to figure out what's like, because we talk about what makes Superman all the time, but also another question I think that's important with this new movie is like, okay, well, what is Lex Luthor's character to you?
Yeah.
Because he's just as different throughout the years. I mean, he's way more different throughout the years than Superman. So the idea of like, one, we could do our rankings, but also I think the bigger thing is like trying to get to the idea of what our perfect Lex is.
Can you imagine if he puts on the power armor in this movie?
Oh, let's not even. Let's not even, because that's all stuff. We'll talk about this on the Lex episode.
Yeah.
Oh man. So we do have a listener question.
Yes, would love to hear it.
We can do that. And he actually already have like a follow up to this question that he sent. But I had another thing I wanted to ask you about that's should be, I feel like, another sort of recurring segment on the show each week at the end, where we talk about maybe if there's been any other interesting Superman media we took in this week that's not the thing we're specifically talking about. So my buddy Daniel Feltz asked if you ever have any interest in discussing the influence of Philip Wiley's Gladiator on the creation of Superman. I can be of assistance. It's the subject of one paper I presented at a conference. Now, I don't even know what Philip Wiley's Gladiator is. I appreciate Dan giving me the benefit of the doubt on the intelligence to know what he's talking about. But I was like, well, I already like the sound of this, but I don't know. I don't know what that is. I don't know what the connection would be. And so I didn't want to speak for you, but I was like, maybe you already know about it. But he said that he's going to do a write-up of topics surrounding the Gladiator book, to sort of present us with, to see if it's I think something that, if it feels like a fertile ground for talking about. But he said, as a backup, he has also started compiling a list of every Superman sketch on Saturday Night Live. And I was
Oh
like,
my
that sounds like
God.
something that is right up Jacob's alley.
That sounds so good, man. Yeah,
So Dan, you're doing good. You're doing good work. What do you know the Gladiator, Philip Wiley's Gladiator that he's talking about?
honestly only from me Wikipediaing it right now.
Okay, so I don't feel bad. I
Yeah.
don't feel as bad.
No, but it sounds very like there's a lot of potential here. Concerns a scientist who invents a serum to improve humankind by granting the proportionate strength of an ant and the leaping ability of a grasshopper.
Ooh,
Those early comics is almost exactly how Superman's powers are described.
interesting.
I'm gonna read this book.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, it's
And then,
it's a
then maybe
it's
you'll have
public
some very
domain.
specific. You'll have some very specific questions for Dan, perhaps, because I will not be reading this book.
I just finished a god awful book, so I could use a good
look.
book to read.
Like, I've never read a book before. I'm not going to start now.
So, have you taken in any Superman media this week?
Speaking of Lex, I finally read the last chapter of an interesting project that was like kind of also had plagued with production issues. Took a long time to finally finish coming out, and it was the DC Black Label miniseries, The Last Days of Lex Luthor.
Oh, is that out now?
Well, the last issue has been out. The last issue has been out for a couple weeks, but it was like when I went to go get it, my local comic shop had, I guess they had sold out of it, and it took until this week for me to see it back in the store, the final issue. And so I got that this week to finally finish reading it.
How many issues was that in total?
It's just 3 issues.
Okay. The first issue was like a year
Yeah.
and change ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never got issue 2.
Thanks a lot, Brian Hitch.
Oh God.
I'm sure
Takes
that
me
there's
back
some
to
kind
my
of good...
subscriptions to Ultimates days.
Yeah, right?
I would get like one issue every like 6 months. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm paying for this.
What's crazy though is like I think that it's possible there's something else, and I don't want to just blame this on Brian Hitch, because he was like, here in the last like couple years, he has suddenly shifted to where he put out like 16 issues of Venom in 1 year or something. I don't know. He's just been doing like way more. Like he was doing. I feel like there was a point where that Venom book that he was doing like was double shipping, but he did like a monthly run on Hawkman when it came back with DC Rebirth. I think
People just love drawing Venom.
But
there's no limit to how many Venom drawings a man can produce in a month.
It seemed sort of like these last couple of years where he was doing a lot more monthly, he was doing regular monthly work, seemed sort of like it was trying to prove that he had, his process had changed or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was able to get stuff done a lot quicker now. And he even had like Kevin Nolan was the inker on this, and it looks great. There used to be this saying that it's like, if you're trying to pitch a comic, I think Chris Sims is the one that told me this. But he told me it's like, if you're ever trying to pitch a comic to somebody, if you've got an idea, but you don't have an artist, just tell people, like you tell the editor that you're pitching it to, just imagine Alan Davis is drawing it. Because everybody can kind of like picture what, like Alan Davis is great, but it's like, you also can kind of like, I say that name and you can, and if I go, okay, now Superman is punching Lex Luthor, you can immediately
I have the picture in my head.
Yeah. You can immediately kind of just imagine how Alan Davis would draw Superman punching Lex Luthor.
Oh, that's great.
And so it's the same kind of thing with this, where I was going like, it's very well done, but it's also, there's like visually, there's no surprises. I have like conflicted feelings about it. So I don't know. Overall, I thought it was very well done, like both the art and the story. But I was like, I'm sort of like not sure how I feel about the ending. And so that's kind of made it hard to just give the whole thing like, oh my God, everybody's got to read this. It's so great.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, there's a lot of good stuff right up until the ending. And I'm not saying the ending is bad, but the ending is just interesting
Yeah.
in a way that makes me go like, I think it's going to be one of those things where it's like, as I go back to it, in years to come,
Hmm.
I think I'll probably enjoy it more. But on the first read, and especially after like waiting both a long time since the first issue and then waiting a long time to get this third issue,
Yeah.
because the comic store didn't have it, I think I was going, all right, you better really nail this landing.
It's always a challenge. The
Yeah.
more like, I feel like comic runs are very hard to have endings for because like just the time it takes to read a comic is so like low and like
Yeah.
the weight is so low. Like
Yeah.
it never feels like a climax the way you kind of fully want it to.
Which ones? What's a comic that you feel like, or like a run, or or its own miniseries, or like a graphic novel or something? What's something you feel like really nails the ending, really sticks the landing?
I think I would say most of Kieran Gillen's stuff, but I'm picturing Journey into Mystery with young Loki.
Okay.
I don't know if you've read that.
I've definitely read some of it. I am not a huge Kieran Gillen fan, but it's not from like having read a bunch of his stuff that I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
It's just I haven't read that much of his stuff.
Um,
And I know that
Aaron's Thor run, I think, nails every aspect of it.
This is another thing that's making me go like, or I was like, oh, I loved that, but I have no idea how it ended.
It like ends, and then there's like there's like a 4-issue miniseries epilogue, King Thor, that takes place.
Now I remember that King Thor, but I read that so far after the other stuff. I'm not sure if I even necessarily realized that it was like a direct, sort of epilogue.
Yeah. Rom, got to give it up for Rom, Space Knight.
Rom sticks the ending.
My God, does Rom stick the ending? Have you read the ending of Rom?
No, I didn't even. I mean, I assumed that Rom was one of those things where it was just like it either just got canceled, or the license ran out and they had to just stop it all of a sudden.
No, it fucking rules, man. You got to read all of Rom because the last like quarter of Rom is like the entire Marvel universe is now involved. It's like it's a crossover that is exclusively happening in the pages of Rom. Like the entire Marvel universe is now involved in the war against the dire wraiths.
Wow! All
Steve
right,
Ditko's drawing some of it.
holy moly! Okay,
It's fucking great, man.
interesting. All right, I'm still sitting here trying to think of something that I feel like really sticks the landing, and I'm going like, what springs to mind? Oh, obviously All-Star Superman.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that whole thing is perfect. It's like there's not a wrong note in the entire symphony of that entire run. Like that whole thing is just one giant perfection. But it's interesting. This is another thing I thought would be a fun thing to talk about at some point, is like our comics that would be like, this is what people should read.
Yeah.
If they don't know Superman, or if they don't know enough about Superman, they want to get why we like Superman so much. And even though All-Star Superman is like my favorite comic of all time, and I think is the most like one of the most perfect works of media ever, for like just if you just something, I mean, one's so satisfying, but like is just that gets everything right on a level that had never even, I don't think it's ever gotten before. But like, but it's not a thing to give to someone that doesn't know comics or understand Superman. It's like, it's great. It's wonderful for the person. I mean, I think someone could enjoy it because it's just, if they go into it with an open mind, but so much of it is like, I feel like it really benefits from
knowing the context,
from knowing what Superman's deal is.
Zabaro doesn't work if you don't know Bizarro.
Yeah. But like, so like, and it's interesting when they mentioned that this being like one of the things possible. Like I hesitate to even mention this because I think that there's probably going to be some stuff from this in the movie. But Superman Birthright,
oh yeah,
is my like, I think that's like the perfect Superman thing that you could give to anyone and go, this is why this guy is so cool. And it lays it all out for you. It gives you all of the important beats that you need to
Yeah.
understand why this guy is so great and his whole deal. But it's like also the ending of that is basically just like, well, he wins, and then it's like the ending is that now he's off to be Superman for the rest of the adventures you already know,
Yeah.
or and haven't discovered, or the ones haven't discovered yet. But well, anyway, okay, so I've got some ROM homework.
Yeah.
Did
And
you
it's
have anything?
now. Yeah. So I actually just today finished the final volume of the Man of Steel collections. So volume 9. That
Wow!
takes you through the first 2 years, the whole 2 years of John Byrne's run.
Wow!
So I just got to the issue where Superman executes General Zod.
Oh boy,
which
that leads to a very fraught next several months of episodes issues.
So I mean, that's the thing. Like, so I like Man of Steel discourse puts me to sleep, but when it was high, people are like, oh, well, what about in Superman 2 when he kills General Zod? Which, first of all, he slides down an ice slide. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I have enough here. Like,
the extended, the version of that shows you that
them getting arrested.
Yeah, arresting the Kryptonians,
which is also funny. How'd the police get there?
Yeah.
Oh, God. Our Superman 2 episode, we're going to have to go into, is the Fortress of Solitude actually at the North Pole, or is it just like somewhere in Canada?
Well, I think what we're probably going to have to do is watch Superman 2 at the same time as Santa Claus the movie, and see how if we could possibly overlay one on the other and see how it links up.
That's a great idea. But like, I think a thing that makes, and I'm not in love with Superman executing 3 Kryptonians from a pocket universe.
Yeah.
I don't hate it though, but like, the thing is, that is not the happy ending of that story. It is essentially the beginning of the Superman in Exile stuff, which I think is actually really cool. Like, I love
Superman in Exile. Yeah, man.
It fucking rules.
Yes.
And it's so interesting to see the transition of what Byrne is doing versus what Jerry Ordway and Roger Stern and everybody who's coming on afterwards,
where they're taking it.
I think that, I don't think the like quote unquote post-crisis Superman doesn't really start until Byrne is gone.
Oh, interesting.
He laid a lot of groundwork, but like what the book actually feels like, I think was laid by Marv Wolfman, who pieced out early, and then the rest of those guys who would go on to do and define like the Triangle Run.
Yeah, man, that really is that. I mean, because that really is what, like, this is like a whole other episode. That's interesting. Like, so what do you think of where you've stopped at? Like,
so I mean,
over the whole run, what would you recommend it? What would you give us your full kind of take on it?
I would actually recommend, if you could do this, maybe I'll put this in the show notes. Infinite. Yeah, go on to DC Universe Infinite, read Man of Steel, the 6-issue miniseries, and then read just the issues of Superman that don't cross over into anything.
Right.
So like, there's 22 issues. Like, you've got a Legends crossover in there. You've got a Millennium crossover in there. Throw those out. You've got 1 or 2 crossovers with Adventures of Superman, which I love Adventures of Superman, but just for the sake of argument, throw those out. You probably have like 16 fun single issue stories, because that's what Byrne was doing, which I think is really interesting, that he's just doing every issue is a beginning, middle, and an end.
Yeah.
But in a modernized like context.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I have only read them as they've been mapped out in those books, but looking back, I would love to do a read that is just those Superman issues that are like, okay, Silver Banshee. Okay, this one's about Metallo. Okay, like, I think that's a really interesting
Well, you've got
run.
some cool stuff in there too, where it's like Byrne, instead of like overthinking some stuff. I mean, I think he overthinks some stuff, but
Yeah.
there's some stuff in there where he, instead of like overthinking it, he just goes at it like just head first,
Yeah.
just jumps straight to it. Like, why doesn't Lex Luthor figure out that Clark Kent is Superman? He just goes, I think that's like in issue 3 or something.
I think it's 2.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So it's like, but did he just jumps, like, he's like, let's get this out of the way.
Yeah.
Like, and that stuff, I'm going, well, okay, that's great.
Yeah.
And like some of those ideas that he puts forth, like as answers to some of those kinds of things, or his like solution to some of those, problems in air quotes, is like with some of that stuff, I'm going, yeah, this is a good way to go. And there's some of them going like, it really doesn't have to be this complicated.
It's just so funny that like within 2 years, they're like, at the beginning, they're like, okay, Superboy gone, Supergirl gone, extra Kryptonians gone, and then within 2 years they've already like started backing out of that. But because they promised it, they're like, all right, Pocket Universe by the Time Trapper.
Yeah,
you're just like, I was trying to explain to my wife today what Supergirl's deal was in post-crisis. I was like, all right, so this is post-crisis Supergirl. I was like, pre-crisis, Superman's cousin, easy. This is a protoplasmic clone programmed to think she's Lana Lang from a pocket dimension where Superboy is dead. And she just like looks at me and I'm like, I don't know. You when I say stupid things in comics, I love that. But I feel like you think that I like you hate it. Like whenever we're reading something together and like something like joyfully stupid happens and I'm like, I love this is so stupid, and she's like, no, but I don't like I'm like, no, okay, right,
I don't like
guess.
stupid things. I'm an intelligent person who doesn't like stupid things. It makes sense.
Yeah,
I can see where people are coming from with that attitude, but at the same time, sometimes it's fun to have something just be like gleefully stupid. Like, just like, yeah, of course this is ridiculous. Talking about a flying guy. Like, let's just have some fun. That's the part. You know what? I gotta say, we didn't talk about this with the movie because it's almost like you don't even need to talk about it. But I think the moment at the end of that movie, where the score is, you're given that big triumphant, it's like of him, a new day is dawning on Superman looking out for the whole world. And I think that the moment where Superman, you get those couple shots of him like flying, and then he moves, and then he breaks right there at the end. It's the last thing you see of Superman is him looking straight at us and smiling at. I'm gonna start crying. Just like it's like, and like this other podcast that was talking about that I listened to recently that was talking about this, which was with Gorley and Rust. I don't know if you listened to that, but it's Gorley from James Bond. And, he like the way that they describe it is like Superman saying like, hey, we had a good time tonight, didn't we? Like, wasn't this fun, guys? Didn't we have a good time?
Yeah.
And, like, it was good hanging out with you guys. I told you we were going to have a good time. Like, wasn't this a fun ride? I'll see you again soon. Like, the moment where that whole little bit, I was like, that's my favorite thing in the history of movies.
Yeah. And
that's like the most
it's also
perfect,
like
beautiful moment of like, that is movie magic to me.
Because it's that joyful twinkle in the eye, but it's also him being like, hey, it's all going to be okay.
Yes. Which is, as we had some technical difficulties, it gave me a minute while you were working on the problems to look at my phone, and there's some real bad news. So that's exciting. Or potentially bad news, I guess. We don't know what's going to happen. None of us do, but it's like, it really does make you go, it would be nice if there was someone telling us, going like, hey, don't worry, folks, it's going to be all right.
Yeah. It's what you really need.
Yeah. What's your favorite part before we leave? What's your favorite part from this movie?
I think the movie does not get better than interview, can you read my mind flying sequence.
Oh boy. Okay.
Like that whole 15 minutes of the movie is as good as any movie has ever been.
For me, it's from when Clark walks out of the building. I mean, you could start it from Lois getting in the helicopter, but from as soon as that of the score, as soon as it's trouble has started. Oh no. As soon as that starts, basically from the first time you hear that sting, that music cue in there, that it's like, and she starts yelling help, from that until a friend, and then flies off and she faints. That's the best thing. That's the best part of that. Like, nothing has ever topped that for me in a movie.
You got me. Who got you?
Yes, it's because it's got so much. You get the moment of him going like, it's because it doesn't just jump straight to it. It is that thing like we talked about with the score last week, where it's like it gives you this building. It's like, no, of course we know he's gonna save her.
Yeah,
but it's the way that the movie builds up to it, the tension, and how palpable we haven't said it, but Margot Kidder. She is just, it's unbelievable.
Nobody could have been better.
No, it's impossible. I don't like, and you see some of those bigger names that were people, and you watch some of the screen tests, and some of those people, you can see their version of it being in the movie, but it would not be the same movie. It would not be the same Lois. Oh man, she is so incredible. And like the way that she is able, like, there was a point in there where I was just going, people don't scream like this in movies anymore.
Unless it's a Sam Raimi movie.
Well, yeah. But it's like, like people in, like, she screams like you can hear her throat going raw. She is screaming so hard. Like, it just feels so, and that's like what pulls you in to, this is like a ridiculous situation. I mean, like, if you look at it, there's like the circumstances of how it happened. It's like, it's very, it's all kind of, and then it's like that a man is going to fly up, a guy in blue tights and a red cape is going to fly. Like, that's also could be so silly. And we talk so much about how Christopher Reeve is, and when I say we, I mean like the film going public, fans of this movie. We talk about how important Christopher Reeve's, like, what he brings to this role that sells it, that makes it work. But like, I think that Lois is even is just as important to making the world feel real, making the stakes feel real. And like, you can't help but she sounds so terrified. Her performance is so incredibly real in that moment. And even in this, just when it starts getting fun, like the "Who's Got You," she says that with there is such truth in her voice of just like, this can't be happening.
If you haven't mastered Lois, you don't have a Superman story.
You just can't. I mean, and that's the thing that is like,
cough, Superman Returns, cough, cough.
I was gonna say cough, Superman Returns, and cough, Man of Steel, because it's like, I love Amy Adams, but she feels so wasted in all of those movies, and all that Snyderverse stuff. It's just like, this is what you're doing with this good of an actress, like, and seems so like inconsequential, really. Anyway, we're not trying to talk about those, but she's just so good there. And then it's like, then you get the build of him trying to figure out, where can I change in this new modern 70s world? Look at these newfangled
phone booths,
small phone booths where you can't even change into your Superman costume in, like all of that. And then the way that they cut to all of those reactions of the news crews and the people, and like those people being scared, it just all feels so real. And then when people are like, "Oh, what is that? Like, what? Oh my God!" And then they're just like, "Well, he caught her. I can't believe it, but I don't have an answer for what's going on." But a guy just flew up there and caught her, and then, oh no, it's even worse than you thought. Because it's not just that he caught her. It's like, oh no, now this is going to hit him. And there's that moment of panic there too. And that, like, the little smile on his face as she's like scared for a second. And he's like, oh, she doesn't know I'm Superman. Like, that's like so amazing. And then that it then hits the, then when he catches it
Yeah.
and it cuts back into the Superman march, and then you just got people
Ugh.
cheering on the ground. It's like,
That's movie magic.
how could anything be better? And then you get to him sitting it down and like, this man needs help, all this. And she's just like, this woman who is completely unfazable
Mm-hmm.
is just
Phased.
dumb. So could not be more phased, just dumbstruck. Yeah, but it still is how great she is, both the writing and the performance, that it's like, it does still get where she manages to get out, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because the reporter in her kicks in, like the Lois
Yeah.
Lane kicks in, and she's like, I gotta, this is the important question. She asks the most important question, the only question that really matters. And then he has the perfect answer ready to go.
Ugh.
Like, it's perfect.
They nailed it.
It's like that one little bit, like that's
I might change my answer.
That's what makes the rest of the movie work. Because if you
Yeah.
didn't have that all play out exactly where it's like, and it keeps you from being like Richard Donner and like was so smart, and everything you hear him talk about with the making of this movie and his thoughts on it. He was like, I don't, it's like, it doesn't have to be real. It just you have to believe
Mm-hmm.
the two of them.
Yeah.
And his whole thing was like, of course, the special effects are important and all that, blah, blah, blah. Like all of that's important. But if you don't believe that these two, if you're not rooting for these two to fall in love,
Yeah.
then the rest of it doesn't matter. And so I think it is I think we're both right. It's the combination of those two scenes.
Yeah.
Are what makes all the rest of the movie work as well as it does.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God, what a great movie. This is my favorite movie. I mean, I can't, nothing, there's a lot of other movies I love, but like nothing else can get to the childhood wonder feeling of movie. This is the movie magic. This is why you go to the movie. This is how great something can be.
It's as good as pop cinema can be.
Yeah, like
it's a piece of pop art, because it's building on the like cultural connections. It's building on this cultural like value that we associate with this made up character, but who's also on lunchboxes and peanut butter and like. It tells a real story about him and like retains that 70s edge and like a twinkle. It's just, it nails every feeling and vibe you could possibly want a movie like this to nail.
Oh, what a great movie.
What a great movie. Well, listener, I promise next episode won't be 3 hours long.
I'm hoping it'll be even longer, depending on what we're talking about, which we haven't decided.
Yeah.
Jacob, where can people find you if they want to follow you?
So I am on Twitter and Blue Sky and Letterboxd at Jacob_DeNoble and on my website, denoble.com. And how about you, Chris?
I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky and everything on @TheChrisHaley.
Until next week, keep fighting for truth and justice.
From a doomed planet in a distant galaxy to a fantastic underground hideaway, from the Fortress of Solitude to the bustling city room of the Daily Planet. Look, up on the screen. It's Superman. Superman, the movie.